You what was I doing with her? Fuck, I don't remember. I think this way. I was gonna say when you kind of when you catch yourself having like an extremely emotional response to something, whatever it might be, you should go and first of all acknowledge that you're having an emotional response, then realize that it's emotions and it's not that it is purely emotions, and then like what you decide to do about it logically, um, and realize what part of like your emotions are affecting you, are influencing you, are kind of making you think certain things or believe certain things or see things a certain way. That's extremely important. So like whenever something makes you feel in that moment or just after, like very strongly emotionally one way, you go and what you do first is you acknowledge that it's making you emotionally feel like that or react like that, and then you decide what to do about it, or I think just the big thing is like acknowledging that it's like emotionally making you feel a certain way. So an example is like certain soulmate like girls that you'll have, and then like you're always chill like when you're by yourself, but when you're with them and you spend like a little bit of time, all of a sudden you're like fuck, I'm tired. Oh, when you're with them and all of a sudden you spend like a little bit of time, then you when you spend time with them you're like, oh, like fuck, like I want to be with this girl, like I really want to be with this girl. But then you feel that feeling really strong, and that feeling's like extremely strong in you, and then if you like weren't with that girl, maybe then just in general you'd be like, yeah, it's something I want in my life, that like at some point I'd want to be in a relationship with a soulmate girl, but it's not something that like you have to do with the next girl you meet or next girl you see or next soulmate girl or whatever. Like that's like a logical, it's a want, but it's tied from within you, but there's like it's not completely devoid of like reason or meaning or anything, like it's something that you kind of feel, but then it's not like an emotional response just in that second. But then you see the girl or you spend time with her, and whenever you do, you're like, fuck, like I want to be with her, I want to be with her so much, and like, oh, like I want to be with this girl. But the very first thing you do, and it's critical, it's really important, is that you acknowledge that you're emotionally like that like you're emotionally reacting and what it's causing you to feel, and then from there you can kind of decide what to do about it, what the logic is, or what to say about it. Ray Dalio said in his book Principles that like success in life, a lot of it is um, mediating between logic and emotions. It's finding finding that balance between or what is it, like finding not compromise but like the correct harmony or the correct alignment between logic and emotions, you know? And that's important because if you just went all by logic, then life would kind of be bullshit. You should do things because you feel the urge to do them, but at the same time, you shouldn't do things just because they feel good or they feel right. So you don't do things just because they feel good, they feel right, they feel amazing. There should be purpose to your actions, but at the same time, these like purposeful things that you're doing, like you should be doing them because they're purposeful, but also because and there's some purpose to them, there's some logic and purpose and meaning to them, but also because they make you feel good, they excite you, and they emotionally kind of feel good with you too. So then which girl do you get in a relationship with, and which do you which do you settle with? That should be if you get in a relationship, it should be the one who fits the emotional component but fits the logical component too, you know. nothing less than that. You don't settle. um so it should be the girl who fits that emotional, like she's like right for you, and like the inclination, like you have like that natural inclination for each other. You guys can talk about all these correct things, and it's right and it feels good, and you can talk about all these things, and um, connect on a deeper level, talk about deeper parts of yourself. But also she's logically right, you know, she's logically a good choice. Maybe she's the right age, or comes from the right family, or has the right upbringing, um, hasn't been with a lot of partners, has like is a certain age and not too old. Like logic and emotion should go together, and I think that's a good recipe for happiness in life. Is not do things purely out of emotion, not do things purely out of logic, but the mixing of two, the happy marriage of the two, and harmony between the two. You know, alignment between the two. Um, because I've seen in my own experience that like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go by logic, and like, oh, this is the logical thing to do, and you're fucking miserable because it's something that you really don't want to do, and you do something you don't want to do for way too long. So then yeah, like the logical thing is kind of bullshit. But then at the same time, um, you do the emotional thing, and like, oh, like you feel really good, and like it feels good the whole way, and then like you fuck up your life, and you fuck up like a bunch of things. Like you fail all your classes, and you um like kind of put your friends and your family through hell, and you ruin a lot of things. And like, oh, like emotionally like felt good the whole time, but after it's a lot, it was just a mess. And like you're like, what came out of it? You know, just a lot of pain and a lot of bad experiences and just bullshit. And like, oh yeah, you emotionally felt good, but logically it was a train wreck like the whole way through, and after it was absolutely horrible, you know. So you need like a little bit of both, a little bit of logic and a little bit of emotion. A good example is for example for myself, that like, oh, okay, I see that, I know that I want to get done with school, or like that it's important. I see the logic in getting done with school, but at the same time, emotionally, like, oh, okay, I can, like, I need to at least do a major where I kind of have interest in the topic, or like it can't be something that's so dry that like I like don't care at all in class. Like emotionally, I'd need just the slightest inclination to be able to make it. Otherwise, it would be pretty fucking hard. Or like it's like I said, you're doing only the logical thing without the emotional component at all. Then like it's pretty miserable. And you need certain amount of that emotional component where you're like, oh, I enjoy the material. I enjoy it. You have like kind of a natural inclination towards it and what you're learning, and so you pick the right major and do it because of that. And then you're getting both parts. You're getting the logic and the emotion. Um, so yeah, for relationships, that's really important. For any girl that you decide to get with and be with, or just being to get into a relationship with, that's like a very serious thing. You're making a commitment to another person. You guys are gonna commit to each other and grow something with each other day by day, and that should be done. That commitment should only be made with someone who fits emotionally, yes, but very much logically too. And not just that they like, oh, like fit logically, because human tendency is to justify, like feel it emotionally and then justify it logically. But it's like I said, the very first thing when you catch something or someone or any experience or anything, and you catch yourself emotionally reacting, you know, you see something and you're like emotionally, oh, that's horrible, or you see something and like, oh, that's a crime, or that's a tragedy, or that's a horrible thing. Realize that, oh yeah, okay, first of all, acknowledge and see and realize that, okay, this is making me emotionally react. And then from there you can kind of see like, oh, what the logic in it is, or what's making that thing do that thing, or say that thing, or what's making that person do that thing, what's making this thing happen, where is it coming from, you know. um, and then a lot of the time these things that you're judging like emotionally as good or bad, or like evil, like, oh, this is an evil thing, and then you see and like, oh, actually it serves some purpose in nature, and then you see that, oh, it's not such an evil thing after all, I guess, and that there's another perspective to look at it from, you know. um, Life is almost entirely, like in a lot of ways, a lot just perspectives, and just seeing different perspectives like that. So yeah, it's kind of it's important to find that marriage and that balance and that medium between logic and emotion. I think so. That's the way you find happiness, I think, to have a little bit of both. Yeah, I think so.